Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to ESCP Business School special webinar today on the Master in Management program. And we wanted to focus on India, so we will try to provide information that's more specific to Indian students, for example, on scholarships and visa opportunities. So I'm Nathalie Quintin-Geselius, in charge of international recruitment for the Master in Management. And I'm very lucky today to have another school representative from the Student Affairs and Student Experience team, Elena Potier, and also we have a student ambassador, Vikram Timiri. So we're here today to answer, of course, as much as possible your questions and present all the features of the program. I will let maybe Elena introduce herself briefly first, and then Vikram.
Hello, as a student affairs staff here in the Paris campus, we are pleased to assist students from the main program for all the administrative aspects, starting from the time that you have been recruited, so general information about the Paris life, visa subjects, how to find your housing solution, the best one, how to open a French bank account or affiliate to the French Social Security Service. So we are a team, multilingual, and we can also receive your questions during this period before the induction day by Google Meet. And we are pleased to assist and help all the students recruited to the main program. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vikram, and I'm currently in Paris. So I did my first and the second semester in Paris, so the entire M1 in Paris. And it has been a really great journey so far. And I'm really happy to be in this webinar because a lot of students have questions related the academics and the student life. And as a student who has been through this process, I feel like it gives me a good opportunity to express my experiences that I've faced so far. So looking forward to the webinar, and thank you for the management to organize this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vikram, and thank you, Elena. So today I will be presenting the Master in Management. As you may have seen from our brochure, you have a lot of options and a lot of possibilities in the program. So we will be giving you an outline of the different options that you have. Don't worry, you don't need to make any decision at this point. Only where you want to start the program, so the first semester of year one, and you need to make two choices as far as the destination is concerned. And then you have also to have an idea of a bigger plan of the 2-year course, because what you choose during the first year might impact what will be possible in the second year. And vice versa. So you need to have an idea of what you would like to do. So I will just run through some slides. Feel free to send in your questions in the chat. We'll have a Q&A at the end of the session, so you can send your questions as we go, and then we'll review all your questions at the end. So ESCP, as you may know, has 6 European campuses in 6 different countries. So we have in Paris, London, Berlin, Madrid, Turin, and Warsaw. As of now, we have approximately 6,500 students enrolled in our program, representing 120 nationalities. So it's a very international school, as you may know. We have around 5,000 managers and executives, so participants in executive education programs, a network of approximately 65,000 alumni in 150 countries in the world. We have 130 academic alliances worldwide, so it will be interesting for you to know, because It gives a lot of dual degree and exchange program opportunities. And we have a full portfolio of programs ranging from the bachelor to the master in management, MBAs, PhD, and many more programs. And we have a faculty of 155 research active professors, and also very international since they're coming from 30 different countries. You may know the school possibly from the Financial Times rankings, among other rankings. So the Master in Management is ranked number 6, and then our Master in Finance number 2, Executive MBA number 7. And also what's interesting is that you have to look at the accreditations. So the school has the AACSB accreditation, the EQUIS EFMD, which is a European accrediting body, and you have also the EFMD MBA and EFMD EMBA, which are new accreditations. So the program, as I mentioned, is highly customizable. So all students will be sharing the overall structure of the program and the academic requirements. But then you get to choose the degrees which you will be gaining, the content, so you can choose specializations and elective courses. The international experience, since you can choose the countries where you study and also the language. Then the professional experience, you have also different possibilities, and the learning organization, because you can choose to have professional periods or courses, and you can add some variations in the sequences of the program with gap semesters and gap year. So the overall structure of the program, a little diagram just so it will be maybe a bit clearer in your mind. So the pre-master year is only for students who did preparatory classes in France, so you don't have to take the pre-master year. What will be interesting for you, it's the master cycle. So as you can see, it's a 4-semester program, 2-year program. And the first semester will be dedicated entirely to the core courses. Then the second semester, you can already pick a specialization and electives. So starting from the second semester of the first year, you can specialize. And then you can pick 1 or 2 specializations also in the second year, plus electives. Or you can choose to do a dual degree, an exchange program, or a gap year. So many different combinations are possible. And to benefit the most from the international structure of the school, you have to study in 2 different countries at least, and you're limited to a maximum of 2 semesters in the same campus. And those semesters don't have to be consecutive. So you can switch location each semester. So technically you can study in up to 4 different places. And you can choose from our own 6 campuses or also the partner universities. The academic requirements. So I won't go over all the details of the credits. It might be a bit too much for the presentation, but I will send you the slides after the webinar, so you have time and chance to review all the material and see how the program is broken down. But just as a reminder, so year 1 dedicated to core courses, and first semester entirely core courses, second semester will be core courses and specialization, and the second year will be entirely dedicated to the specializations and electives. You have also 2 seminars, and you have a master thesis to submit. So the degree choices, I mentioned that you can choose the degrees you will be gaining. So you can gain more than 1 degree. You get the French master degree, Master in Management. Depending on where you study and the campus combinations that you choose, you can also add on more national degrees. So for example, the German degree from the Senate, the Spanish degree from Carlos III University, the UK degree from City University, etc. So you can add also more degrees with ESCP, with the partner schools. So if you choose and apply to dual degrees, it means you spend the whole second year at the partner school and you get both the ESCP degree and the degree from the partner school. And then we have a number of agreements also with other schools in France, primarily in Italy, but with non-management disciplines. So you can also have a look at those, but usually you're expected to speak French to attend those courses. Then what are the conditions? We try to make it as simple as possible. Again, you don't have to remember all of this right now, but by default, everyone is getting the French degree, which is delivered by the French Ministry of Higher Education. So it's a government issued degree. And then, for example, if you want to get a German Master of Science, you have to study 1 or 2 semesters at the Berlin campus, and you have to take 3 specializations. To gain the UK degree, you have to study 1 or 2 semesters at the London campus, but then you can only study at ESCP campuses. So it means you can't do dual degrees or exchange programs. And again, etc. You have different conditions depending on the campus where you choose to study. But it's important to keep that in mind, especially if you want to stay on after your studies. It may be interesting in some industries, in some fields of management. You may be expected to have a national degree, so it's interesting to see what the possibilities are. And then this is a non-exhaustive list of all the double degrees. Again, you don't have to remember all of this, but we do have a number of partner universities everywhere in the world. I want to really stress the fact that there is a selection process. So it doesn't mean that because you would like to enroll in one school, it's not only ESCP that makes the decision, it's also the partner school. So there is selection on both sides. And also you are expected to apply in another country than your home country. So it's not possible for students from India to apply to the schools in India. You have to pick a country where basically you will learn about a new culture and a new country, but not back in your home country. Then the specializations, I enclosed the links because I think not many students know that we give access to the course syllabus. So I think if you want to browse through the different specializations that we offer, you have a pretty complete outlines, and you can really browse through all the specializations we offer so that you know more about the content and how it's being taught and who are the professors, what kind of assignment you will be getting. So you have the possibility to find a lot of information on the website.
Natalie, I just would like to add one small point for the specialization.
Please
so
do,
basically,
please.
Yeah, so I'm currently in the second semester and I'm doing a specialization in consulting. So honestly, the experience for the specialization has been really good for me because I chose a subject that I'm really interested in. So all the classes that I attend is something that I really enjoy attending. And the second thing is that the professors who are taking this particular specialization for me, most of them are people who are working in the field or who are already like in the industry at the moment. So we have like a lot of guest lectures and a lot of presentations from the industry, which makes it a bit more interesting because you're able to relate what you're studying in real world scenarios. So I absolutely enjoy the specialization courses. And it's great that ESCP allows us to take up to 3 specializations. So 2 are mandatory and the third one is optional. So I really enjoyed, and also we got to do some projects with industries, real industries, during this entire specialization period. So specialization is something that you should definitely look up, and the choices are also quite extensive. So no matter which field you're interested in, you'll definitely find a specialization which will cater to your needs. So yeah.
Thank you, Vikram. Yeah, I was going to ask, can you tell us maybe if you already picked one as you're in the end of the first year?
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. I want to echo what you're saying. The students are coming from many different fields, so you're not expected to have a previous degree in management or business to apply to the program. We have a lot of students coming from engineering streams, from scientific technical degrees, some political science, psychology. So it can be very different areas of expertise. And of course, you will have different expectations and you will look for different things in the program. So you may want to spend more time studying topics that maybe you haven't studied in the past and that you would really like to gain more insights into. So, and actually, I was going to go over the list. So again, I'm not going to overwhelm you with all the titles, especially since it's bound to evolve every year. Of course, we update the specialization list, and depending on the courses that are very high in demand, we try to add more destinations so you can choose the specialization and go on the campus where you would like to go. And then the topics that are maybe interesting to fewer students, we might reduce the offer. So we really adapt and try to make it suited to your needs and what also the companies are expecting. So for example, if I can give a concrete example, I know a lot of students in the last couple of years have been asking about data science and big data, artificial intelligence. All those topics are very interesting and very high in demand from companies. And so now we updated with some topics, as you can see, in Paris, in Berlin, in Madrid. Of course, finance is always also a topic that is very high in demand, entrepreneurship also. So you have a lot to choose from. And don't hesitate, of course, to contact us if you want more details, and if you're hesitant between different subjects, you can talk to students and you can talk to us.
I just want to add one more point. You don't have to be really, you don't have to have knowledge in that specialization which you're choosing. You can choose the specialization if you're really interested in it and if you want to learn more about it. Because I personally was from an engineering background, so I did not have any experience in the field of business. I have no experience with consulting, but still I was interested in the field, and that's the reason why I took up this specialization. And now, as my specialization is coming to an end, I have learned a lot, and that's really good. So you don't have to worry that, I don't have any experience in this subject, whether I should take it or not. You should definitely go ahead with it if you are interested and passionate about the topic.
Thank you, Vikram. I was going to ask you, what was the selection process for you when you applied to the specialization? You have to write a motivation letter, and there is an application process for the specialization.
Yes, so for selecting the specialization, I was asked to write a motivation essay stating why I'm choosing that particular specialization, what is the motivation, what is my interest behind that. And I had to make 3 choices. One was my primary choice, and the other 2 were the backup options. So based on the essay and based on the level of interest and motivation that I had in my letter, I was given the choice. We cannot hear you. No, I'm sorry. No. Yeah, we can hear you now.
You can hear me? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
sorry.
now.
I don't know. Maybe it's my Wi-Fi connection. Sorry about that. And then my slides just went back to the beginning. So let's just scroll back.
It was very short.
Yeah.
It was very short. Yeah, sorry. There's micro breaks in my Wi-Fi every now and then, even though we have fiber. But yeah, maybe a lot of people are connected at the same time in the building. I don't know. So I was saying that the process is described in this slide, that there is a limited number of seats. So to get selected for a specialization, you need to have a motivation. So of course, it's better if you already have a career plan or an idea of where you see yourself in the future, so that you can really best describe the need for you to take that course. And the grades are also very important. So you need to be academically performant during the master in management, because depending on your grades, you will be probably given access to more things. So it's important to stay on top of things. The next topic, the international experience criteria. So I mentioned that you have to study in at least 2 different countries. You cannot do more than 2 semesters in the same country. I mentioned that they don't have to be consecutive. So for example, you could start in Paris in the first year, the first semester or first year, then move, let's say, to London or Berlin. You can stay even the first semester of year 2 and then move back to Paris for the end of the program. So there's a lot of variations possible, and the sequences of campus choice can really be adapted to what you want to do, and also, of course, the content of the program that you chose. And again, you have the choice, of course, of studying at ESCP's 6 campuses, which is already a lot. And then you can add on more with the partner schools with exchange programs and dual degrees.
So can I add something?
Please do.
Yes, so student affairs campuses are prepared to assist you for all these visas and administrative procedures to change intercampuses. So even if you choose 2 campuses in the same year, we will provide you the tools and the contacts, because we have a network with Campus France. So even our German, Italian, Spanish are ready to contact the administrative organism to accelerate the process, or to check up if your file is going to be validated soon. And for UK, we have all the new rules, and we have a team that is very strong with the Brexit. That is only matter for the Europeans, but you will have assistance for the task letters, CAS, ready to the visa. So there is changes from one year to one campus to another, or a gap semester, or 1 year in one place, but you will always have the assistance to give you the correct information about the visa matters. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you, Elena. The professional experience. So that's also very important part of the program. So we expect you to validate at least 36 weeks of professional experience based on the previous experience which you may have gained during your bachelor, or between the bachelor and when you join ESCP. We can give you credit for a previous experience up to 16 weeks. So you will need still to gain a minimum of 20 weeks of work experience during the program to be able to graduate. So a lot of students take the opportunity either to take a gap semesters, plural, or a gap year. And you have the possibility each time to do internships, but with a minimum of 8 weeks. I know some students are concerned about being able to compile all the academic requirements within 2 years. It's possible because you usually have a school break between year 1 and year 2 from May to beginning of September. So you have a few weeks that are free between year 1 and year 2. And also at the end of year 2, before the graduation jury, you have also a few months or a few weeks that are free, and you can also use those weeks to take the internships. But we feel like if you want to get interesting internships, they usually expect you to stay for a number of months. Sometimes it's up to 6 months. They really want you to have for half a year, so they can give you more responsibilities and probably more interesting projects. Maybe I can ask Vikram if you want to say your experience. You're in the midst of searching for the internship. Maybe you can tell students today, how do you search? Have you used the resources from the school, for example, the platform, Job Teaser, which is available, or the job fairs? Can you tell us a bit about your own experience so far?
Definitely, yeah. So the one point which you mentioned about the companies preferring students who have a longer period of availability, that's absolutely correct. Because from a company's perspective, they need students who are willing to stay for a longer period of time. So the 3-month to 4-month gap is possible to do an internship. But if you want to find a really interesting internship, which is going to add a lot of value, then it is advisable to take a gap and search for an internship which has a minimum period of 6 months or more. Regarding the platforms, we had this career guidance in the first semester, which was very useful because they guided us on how to make the CV and how to optimize the CV based on the countries that we are applying in. So, for example, when we are applying for companies in France, then the format of the CV has to be tweaked a little bit. It's not the same as you apply for other countries. So these were some things which the students were not aware about in the beginning, but the career guidance classes helped us a lot. And then we were introduced to this platform called the Job Teaser, which has tie-up with ESCP, and that was really useful because it was very systematic. We could just put in the requirements that we have, the experiences that we have, and based on our requirements, it will give us all the available options. And since it has a tie-up with ESCP, the students from ESCP were given a preference. So I really found that platform to be quite useful, and I applied for a lot of jobs from that platform as well. So to be honest, it's not really easy to find a job, especially during the pandemic. Like, the things are a bit challenging, but it's all part of the challenge because it's not going to be easy anyways. Like, wherever you are, it is a challenge. Finding a job is a challenge. So you shouldn't get disheartened that you applied for 2 or 3 posts and you did not get it. It doesn't work like that from my experience at the moment. You need to send applications, and it's always better to have a wider availability, like for a period of say 6 months or above, in order to find a good internship.
Thank you. So yeah, I described here also the different possibilities that we just mentioned with gap years and gap semesters. So you can't take a gap year or semester. You can only take it after the first year. So M1 year is full-time studies, and then starting from the end of M1 year, You can choose to take a gap year for the whole academic year. So for 2022 to August 2023. Gap semester only for the fall semester, and then a study term in January, meaning that you start your M2 year in January instead of September. Or you can do a study term and then a gap semester, or you can take a whole year of studies. So again, you can really choose depending on your personal project. What Vikram just mentioned, actually, the career service is also present on all our campuses. And every year they have approximately 20,000 internship offers per year. I know that sounds like a big number, but just so you know, some companies, of course, they're looking for ESCP students, but sometimes they're looking for students in the top business schools in France, in Europe. So, of course, they post their internship offer or job offer, but it's not necessarily specific to ESCP students. But the students coming from our programs are usually a good fit for them. So they make the most of the school's network and the tools that we have to look also for interns and for potential future employees. We have approximately 130 companies coming every year on campus. This year, the job fairs, which we typically have on campus, were all online, but still the companies were present, and we had, I think, in Paris, around 70 companies that took part. So students could interact with recruiters and HR and talent managers from big companies, and usually we have themes. So, for example, the big industries that students are interested in, so consulting. There is one day dedicated to consulting companies, one day dedicated to the banking sector and insurance sector, one day dedicated to luxury. So then there was also one on IT companies. So again, you will have plenty of opportunities to I don't know if I can say get a foot in the door of companies, at least, you know, get a first contact, an initial contact where you can submit a resume, know more about the company culture, and also get maybe more impressions than you would just by, you know, applying directly on their website. And it's a great opportunity to be a student at the school because you can also benefit from the alumni network. So our alumni are, in a lot of cases, at management level, top level in major companies or startups. I mean, you have a lot of interesting people in the network, and you can also tap into the alumni association resources when looking for opportunities. So some information here. And then, of course, boot camps, mentoring. There's a lot of support from the career service. Some of our top employers, I just try to give you some names. I know not everyone is interested in working in big companies, but it can be something that you're looking at. So some of our top employers, as you can see in the consulting industry, in the banking industry, I mentioned luxury with L'Oreal, LVMH, for example. Some industries also, automotive, you name it. I think we have students and alumni really working in a lot of different fields. And to give you some statistics, so from the class that answered the survey, so that's 3 years after graduation, so that's the class of 2018, 99% found a job within 6 months after graduation. 42% work outside of their home country, so that's also an interesting information that a lot of students like to work and don't necessarily head back home immediately after graduation. And 67% were employed even before graduation. So hopefully that will remain a very good at a very good level in the coming years. And average salary just under 55,000 euros. Again, I mentioned the biggest recruiting sectors: consulting, finance, and technology. And you have some of the functions that students are working at. Next topic, I try to describe as precisely as possible the visa questions, because I know a lot of students are wondering, where do I start? Where do I even start to look? What do I need to know right now? So as a student at ESCP, you will be required to have a student visa. So the the student affairs team is here to support you with the process. If you have questions, of course, on all our campuses, you have a student affairs office, and they can tell you about the specific of their country. Since Elena, you're the expert, maybe you can tell us about your experience. When do you intervene? When do students need to start thinking about the visa? And yeah, what is your experience that you want to share with students?
So last year with the pandemic, Campus France India have reacted very, very quickly. We have chat with them, video call with all the agencies, Delhi, Bangalore, the major agencies, Delhi, Bangalore, Kolkata, and they provide solutions every time for the students. So France received the students last year. So for this year, we hope that it will be the same. So admitted students with an enrollment letter can apply 3 to 2 months before the start date of the courses. So if the main program is waiting for you for beginning of September, around the 9th, you can start applying in July, end of June, July, for any campus. And you will need certainly a proof of housing, so you will need to find the accommodation, and we provide tools. We have a housing guide and an application, a student part that assists you with all the topics, warrantors, because if you are not very familiar in France, you need warrantors. In London, you will need to pay the deposit first. In Italy, you will have some other facilities, in Spain or in Germany. So we have a guide, our housing guide, multi-campus, updated, and you can check all the links, the neighbors, the nearest to the Republic campus in Paris, for example. And then for the visa, it will take 10 working days if your file is complete. You will need to prove the resources. So if you would like to take a student loan, I have seen some questions about student loans in the chat. You can contact your banks in India, where your family or you have your bank account. Or we will talk later about the Charpak scholarship. Don't forget to apply because it's very near the deadline. So for the visa, all the tools are very well explained in the online application. So you submit all the documents online. Campus France will give you the interview online. Vikram told me that last year it was an interview online. Mm-hmm. And then your passport goes to the French consulate and you have the sticker in your passport. So then you can have your trip. We recommend not to buy the airline ticket very soon because you will need to receive the visa first traveling. And then now the frontiers are open, so we will update every month, every week, what is happening in Europe, how to come to France, to Italy, to Spain, to London, the quarantine rules, the certificates that you need to fill in electronically. So that's another aspect of the situation today.
Thank you, Elena.
After graduation, we can see in this slide, yes, Vikram. After graduation, we can see in this slide, you have years visa extension in France. So after graduation, in 2023 or 2024, you will have the opportunity to apply for the stay back visa to look for a job. Vikram, you wanted to tell?
Yes, I just wanted to add about my experience with the whole visa process. Now, initially, it looks a little bit scary and overwhelming, but there is nothing to worry about. The visa process is very simple and it's very systematic. So, as Elena mentioned, Campus France takes care of everything. So basically, your first round of filtering will be through Campus France. They will ask you to submit all your academic documents to Campus France. And once you do that, they will screen it and they'll have a very small interview with you. And then they'll give you a clearance. And once you get an admission at ESCP, the ESCP management will provide you with a certificate of enrollment. And when you have this certificate of enrollment, then you don't have to worry about anything, to be honest, because this has a lot of value. And when you're submitting it in the visa office with all the other supporting documents, you will definitely get a visa. So there is nothing to worry about visa, in my opinion.
And the student visa also gives you some benefits. You will have the opportunity to apply for the French health social security that is for free. So you will have you will be covered for medical fees as well.
And we also get the opportunity of CAF, which is housing allowance. So you can get back some money that you're paying for your house rent. So that's another benefit that we get with student visa.
That's only for France, huh?
Yeah, that's only for France. Yeah.
Yes, and you have plenty of information. We listed on the website. Also, you have a section, student services, and there is plenty of information to find on each of the countries where we have a campus. So if you're wondering what should I do, I'm going to start in London or I'm going to start in Berlin, you have the contact and all of the procedure that's listed very precisely. I'm thinking especially the UK now with the new changes, of course, with Brexit. There's new rules that are put in place. So you have some memos that the team put together that are very clear. And you have a contact again. So feel free to reach out if you have a very specific question and query. And just so you know, I didn't mention it in the slides, but we give the possibility this year to start the first semester online. So we call it the free track. So basically, if you have a problem, you know, coming to one of our campus, you don't feel like you want to make the move immediately, but you want to start with your studies, you won't lose your place in the program and you won't lose time because you will be able to get started and take the classes online. So we will give that opportunity again this year. And also the prerequisite courses, the catch-up courses for the students who don't have a previous degree in management. It's all online. And I was told that more than 70% of the courses are asynchronous. So it doesn't matter if you're in India or in different parts of the world for that matter at that time, you will be able to follow most of the courses. There are some exams and some courses will be synchronous, so you will be expected to attend at specific times, but we try to keep that to a very small amount of hours. So that gives you a bit of flexibility. Then we try to detail, again, maybe Elena wants to talk, and actually there is the link for Campus France India. So if you're not already in contact with them, feel free to contact them because they provide a lot of support also with French courses, with anything that has to do with education and culture in France. So you can contact them, and you have Campus France offices in all of the main cities in India. So most likely there will be one close to you, and you can contact them. And then the next slide was about Germany, just to give you an idea, because we only mentioned Germany and UK and France because they're usually the campuses where we get the most questions about. But for example, in Germany, if you stay more than 90 days, you will need to apply for a student visa. And then as far as post-study visas are concerned, it will depend if you get a German degree or not. So going back to what we were saying earlier about the national degrees, if you see yourself in the future maybe working in Germany and something you really want to try to achieve, then have a look at what the conditions are to obtain the German degree, because most likely you will get longer period of visa, and you have more possibilities to renew after your studies. And also, as a rule of thumb, but it's maybe not applying to everyone and every campus, if you see yourself staying on a bit after your studies, it's better to be as much as possible in the country where you would like to stay when you finish your studies, because generally it's easier to get all the visas and the processes going when you're already settled down in the country. But it can probably change also in the next few years. So we'll see by the time you're graduating from the program. You have to get the updates, and again, we listed some of the documents and the contacts that you can reach out to. I don't know, Elena, if you have something else you want to say about this, because you're in contact a lot with students on visa questions.
So
again,
we share very often. We have meetings, inter-campus meetings very often to look what is happening, to assist. For example, if Berlin is now closed because by law, by the pandemic situation, they have been closed since last year. So they have online courses. Some of the students have changed campuses. So there are many solutions. ECP has open the rules in the MEAN program. They have report the gap semester to give the students the opportunity to do internships. So it's adaptable.
thank you, Elena. And one topic also, the scholarships. I think that's something that you might be looking at. So we try to list also the scholarships that students will be able to apply. So the ESCP scholarship, the merit-based scholarships, you don't need to actually send in an application for that. It's based on your ranking during the admission session. So the better academic performance you have, the test scores, so everything that we take into consideration during the selection process, will have a ranking of students, and then based on that you can get a scholarship from 25% to 100% of the first year tuitions. And then we have other scholarships for international students coming from the French government. So for example, the Eiffel Scholarship. Just so you know, you need to apply to the fall session to be eligible for this scholarship. So for this year, unfortunately, it won't be a possibility. But if you want to stay in France, maybe for the M2 year, then in that case, it will be possible to apply for the 1 year that you're in France. So you can keep in mind the deadline. And then the scholarship, which is specific to Indian citizens, the Charpak scholarship, we actually put together the session very quickly because there is a deadline coming up next week on April the 9th, and we wanted you to have enough time to look through the material and be able to gather all the documents so you can send in an application. Maybe Elena, again, since you're the experts, what can you say about the Charpak scholarship, and maybe Vikram also your experience? So.
Yes, thanks, Natalie. So for the Charpak scholarship, we have recently talked with the manager in Campus France who is in charge of the commission, and she suggests that this is merit-based scholarship. So there is a cover letter, and it's very important to describe all your distinctions, your nomination, if you have participated in competitions or in associations, to improve your application. We have the experience with Eiffel and Charpak cover letters. So if you want to exchange with us, don't hesitate to send me an email and request a Google Meet meeting before the 9, and we can give you some tips.
Yes, the scholarship options are quite good, especially the Eiffel and the Charpak scholarship. And as Natalie and Elena mentioned before, the Charpak scholarship allows you as a student to send out an application and a motivation letter. So you have more control over what you want to say and over how you want to describe yourself for the Charpak scholarship. But from my experience, Eiffel scholarship, I think it is the university has a big say in the Eiffel scholarship. So your CV plus what the university thinks of you from the interviews, those factors matter for Eiffel. But for Charpak, you can send out your own application as well. So that gives you a bit more freedom and flexibility in terms of application process.
Also, I want to add, because I discussed with one of the students that is already admitted and is finishing his application, that it's only for France, for the period when the student is studying in Paris campus. So the cover letter and the motivation letter have to be addressed for the French Indian projects. So, thank you.
Sorry, I went back to the beginning of the presentation again. And then we listed also some scholarship sources, which you can look at, because of course, depending on the country where you start, in the UK, in Germany, in Spain, in Italy, you will have country-specific scholarships that may apply also. So you can have a look. And you can, of course, look in India, because I think there's a lot of support for students who want to study abroad, and you have many scholarships that are available also from the Indian government. So we try to list the ones that we get to see the most. Then last slide, and then we'll go over the questions. How to apply. So you have two possibilities as international students. You have the international direct admissions, which is the direct admission process, and you need to send in an application with GMAT, GRE, or CAT. So we do accept CAT scores. With the pandemic, I know that GMAT and GRE have become available online. So if you have any problem finding a test center, I know it's been an issue for a number of students. The tests are sometimes canceled or postponed, and then it's delaying the application process for you. Try to look first at maybe the online option, and then if it's possible to take in a test center and you prefer, in that case, of course, you're more than welcome to do that. But it is a mandatory part of the application. Then we require an English proficiency language test. But for students coming from India, because education is in English, for the vast majority, if not all of you, we grant a waiver. So if you want to ask for the waiver, you just click on the application that you want to get a waiver. Just so you know, we grant a grade of 15 out of 20. And usually, because your English is already very good, you can get a higher score than 15 out of 20 if you take an official test. So if you have time to take a IELTS or TOEFL or Cambridge, it's worth putting the efforts, because probably you will get a higher score. And secondly, it might be a requirement later on. I'm thinking if you want to go to a dual degree in the US, in Canada, they ask for official test scores, so they don't grant waivers. In the UK nowadays, they also require an official test, so it will be important to have. So I think it's worth, just doing it when you apply to the program, because you won't have as much time probably when you start your studies. And then we require, of course, the transcripts, your diploma. If you haven't gotten your diploma yet because you're still in your last semester or end of your bachelor, just a certificate of enrollment showing that you're finishing your studies. And then we can get your official degree up until the end of November when you start your studies. So usually you have a bit of leeway to get the official document, personal statement, and then a CV. So there is a first screening based on the application. So not everyone is shortlisted for the interview, but then the second step, if you are, it's the motivation interview. Obviously, it's all online nowadays, so we don't do on campus. And don't worry, because students, international students, the vast majority are taking online interviews anyway, even before the pandemic. So it's really the usual process, I would say. And the next deadline, I know someone was asking in the chat. So the next deadline and the last one for this year, it's May 11th, just before midnight Paris time, to submit the application. So this is really the last round for the September intake. And then we have a second process which you can consider the Join a School in France application process. So you might be aware of it. It's a common application process which we organize with 4 other business schools, so ESCP, and then you have HEC Paris, EM Lyon, Audencia in Nantes, and Schema. And the process is 1 application, 1 interview for the 5 Master in Management of the 5 business schools. The requirements are the same. You need a GMAT, English test, transcript, etc. Then it's the same first selection based on the application and then an interview. The main difference is the interview will be in Campus France offices or online or on site. I don't know what they're doing right now. I think it depends on the country we're talking about. But you can take 1 interview. Then I think it will be interesting to have Vikram's perspective, because I get the question a lot, which application process should I choose? Do you prefer one at ESCP? And I think it's really about which school you're interested in. If within the consortium there's only ESCP, then you should apply directly with us, because we have more possibilities to reach out to you directly. We can follow up on your application closely. And of course, during the interview, you will be able to show your specific motivation for ESCP, which you won't be able to do when you apply to join a school in France, because you have to give more of a general vision of your plan of coming to study management in France, but not specifically ESCP. So maybe Vikram, I know you had interesting points to make about this. I can let you talk.
Yep, exactly. So I applied through international direct admission process as well, because for me ESCP was the only target in France. So I felt that it was a better option for me because I was more focused. And as you mentioned, I could, when I was writing my essays, I could focus that more. And when you have like multiple options on the plate, you tend to get a bit confused, especially for me. Like I had that issues. So I personally feel that IDA is a better option if you're focusing only on ESCP. And as Natalie mentioned, ESCP can also communicate with you when you apply directly through IDA, but that's not possible when you're doing it through Join a School in France. So I would say like IDA is a better option.
Thank you, Vikram. And I think also because the program is so specific, because you study in different locations in Europe, not only in France, you might be interested, of course, in France, but not only. So I think it's really important that you get as much information about the program and the different possibilities before, because usually when you get your admission, when you get the you have 1 week to decide if you want to confirm your place, and sometimes students find out about the specificities of the school only when they get the admission results. So I think it's a pity to have to rush, through the process of, oh, I need to think about all of those things now, and I have only a week, and I think it's a bit stressful. So it's good to have more time and more information before. So.
I just see a question asked which is relevant to this topic, so I think we can just quickly address that. Someone asked, can we apply through both the methods, direct and SAI? I think that's not possible. You have to choose one. Yeah, you have to choose one, and you have to stick with that. So applying through both is not possible.
Yeah, exactly, Vikram, you're right. We can only accept one application per year per student. So you have to choose. It happens that students maybe start an application with Join a School in France, and then they open the application with us. That's okay, but then you need to make a choice, because once you submit an application, we will consider the first application we will receive, and you won't be able to switch. So we'll have to cancel one of the two. So it's better to decide before you get started. And yeah, actually, it's a great transition, Vikram, because I think we covered all the different slides, so we can actually go to the questions and answer all the questions. I'll try to have them by themes, but it's not always possible. So let's see. And I think the admission questions, actually, I will be here, of course, to answer. So I think questions on the student affairs and maybe the questions on your experience will be more interesting today. And I can deal with the rest after the session if we don't have time to cover everything. Don't worry, we will reach out to you with an answer. So, so I see a question on well, on the starting date of the program. Someone is asking about the starting date. So yeah, and the admission rounds. So actually the 4 admission rounds are for the September intake. So all the admission rounds that we have on the website, it's for the September intake. So you can't miss or confuse with another intake. It's only one intake per year in September. I don't have the exact schedule right now, but it should be starting, yes, around the 9th of September. Yeah, Elena is motioning yes. And the prerequisites, they start mid-July online. So you might have to study, start studying in mid-July. Yeah, there is a question for Vikram. Okay, so a student is asking, you mentioned earlier you have an engineering background. So why did you choose a master in management and not a course on engineering management? Why did you choose the business side?
That's a very interesting question, because when I was applying for this Masters in Management program, I had the same doubt in my head as well, because I'm coming from an engineering background. Should I completely leave that behind and change? But the thing is, I feel great ideas arise when you combine two diverse fields. So when you're studying engineering and when you're shifting to management, it's not that you're leaving the engineering aspect completely behind. It is going to stay with you, and it is going to help you somewhere down in the line. For example, if you're going to specialize in a field like consulting, having an engineering background is going to be really, really useful, no matter like which field you're going to end up in. But having that exposure and having that experience is definitely going to add value. So don't think that if you're joining Masters in Management program after doing an engineering, it's like you're wasting your engineering. That's not true. And the second thing that I wanted to add is that the reason why I chose Masters in Management specifically was because I was not sure in which field I want to pursue my career in. I knew I wanted to pursue a career in management, but I was not sure about which particular field in management. So personally, I am interested in both consulting as well as marketing. So these are the two domains that I'm really interested in. So currently I'm specializing in consulting, and my future specialization will be in marketing. So based on these two specializations, I can decide which field I find really interesting and motivating, and I can make a career decision based on that. So MIM gives you an overview of all the possible options, and then it allows you to make the final decision. So that's the reason why I chose MIM.
And there's another question for you, Vikram. Why did you choose to study in France?
I think that would be a personal reason, because I really enjoy France. I love France. So I got an opportunity to visit France before, and I really loved it here. And I told my parents that I really want to, pursue my education in France. And I also like traveling a lot. I like experiencing new places. So ESCP was the perfect match for me because it is a French-based school. I was able to, stay here and study. And at the same time, I can plan my education in such a way that I can travel to other countries and get my education at the same time, the experience. So that was one of the reasons why I chose ESCP in particular.
And another question along the same line, what is the benefit of joining a school in France, according to you?
Okay, so I think the first benefit would be exposure, because when you are in France, you get to learn a lot of new things. It's not just in France, but maybe applicable for any other country. You get to learn a lot. The second advantage is the language. I mean, I know it's really difficult. It's a big question for a lot of students, and it's definitely not easy. It's going to take some dedication and time. But if you are able to communicate in French, then the amount of opportunities that opens up for you is incredible. It's not just within France, but it's all around. I mean, it's amazing. So when I joined a university in France, that was a big learning point and a motivation for me, because I started spending a lot of time and dedicating a lot of time to improve my French skills. And currently, I'm in B1 level, and I was attending a lot of classes from the university. So I had French classes from ESCP as well. So that helped me a lot. So that would be one major reason.
Thank you, Vikram. It's a great point you're making about learning the language. It is true that if you do speak French, I mean, you can get by with English on campus, but then in Paris, if you want to live and enjoy the city, it is much easier if you know some French. And then later on, for the internship opportunities or work opportunities, you will be expected to know French, even if it's an international company. It will open up a whole new world of opportunities. I think if you know the language, and it's true to German in Germany or Spanish in Spain. It's not just specific to France. I think it really is true in any of our campuses. It's much better if you do make the effort to learn the local language as much as possible. And the school is here to support with some courses also. So. There is a question also for the both of you, actually, Elena and Vikram. It's about the living expenses in Paris and in the other campuses. What is the average cost, and how do you manage? So if you want to share your personal experience on that.
Okay, so
I can just start. There is a table of cost of living in the website. In the website ECP Europe, a MIM program, there is an update cost of living comparing every campus, and I think it is very up to date. And regarding Paris campus, you have many options if you want to live with other students sharing an apartment or in a student residence that is subsidized, or if you want to rent your own apartment or live with a French family to share also more French culture, interact with French younger generations. So let's say it can change. France is in average 615 euros is what Campus France and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs considers to be the average, 615 euros per month. So the average of cost of living, but then you will have the housing and then your any other extra fees if you take French courses, if you travel, if you study sports, you register in a gym club. So it depends, but it could be between 600 to 1,000, Vikram, in Paris.
I agree with you, Elna. It completely depends on the way you want to live, because it can range based on how you choose to, spend the money. But on an average, I would say it's around 600 to not 600, but maybe 700 to 900. That would be the average. Yeah.
And there is a question for you, Vikram, about your choice for the second year. What's your plan for the second year?
Okay, so currently I'm planning to take a gap semester, and then I wish to pursue an internship during the gap. And then I'm looking forward to continue my studies in the London campus. I haven't finalized on it yet, but I'm planning to pursue my semester in London.
Okay. And actually, also in the same topic, someone is asking if it's possible to cover living expenses with an internship. That would be a question more for the career service, actually. It depends which company you're working in which country we're talking about. In France, you usually have a salary, I would say a proper salary when you're an intern. But I think it really depends on the type of company. Of course, sometimes interns only get an allowance, so maybe it will only cover part of the rent and won't be really that much, but it still helps. And they have to pay you something in France. I think I don't know the law exactly, but they're supposed to pay you something. You can't be working for free. So there is a minimum allowance, but in most cases, I would say most students, they will get something that will be quite helpful, and it's pretty much a salary in itself. So yeah. Elena, you wanted to say something? Sorry, no. There is a question also for you, Vikram, about the GMAT. If you took the GMAT, or maybe it was another test, and what was your score? If you want to share. I know it's a big topic. If someone is from a non-engineering background, what can they expect with the GMAT? Maybe you can share also your experience.
There's a very popular saying: you don't ask a woman her age, a man his salary, and a student his GRE GMAT score. So, but no, this is a quite common question. But I gave GRE. I did not give GMAT because I was more convenient with the GRE format of exam. But for me, the score was 312 in GRE, which is not very high, to be honest. But I had a lot of prior experience in terms of internships and also during my undergraduation. So I had published a couple of research papers, and I had my own, side hustle going on during the application process during the undergraduation. So I feel that my overall application played a very big role, and it's quite good of ESCP that the GRE and GMAT scores account to only 10% of the entire application process. So if there is someone who is not too comfortable with these kind of exams, but is really good in other aspects of academics, then ESCP does give you a chance, so it's not completely focused on your GRE, GMAT score. And that's a very, very good point.
And Vikram, I can add, there's a publication on the student blog. I think a couple of days ago, Jean shared the dreaded GMAT, and there is a testimonial from a student who realized that when she started preparing, she thought she had like 4 months, and then with all the test dates filling up and the internship that came up, she ended up she had like 3 weeks, I think, to prepare, and she still managed to land, I think, a 6:30 or 6:40, and she got an admission. So I think it's important, of course, to prepare, because it's an indicator for us, you know, in the admission office. We have students coming from all around the world with different grading systems and different academic systems. So it's difficult to compare. So at least GMAT and GRE, they kind of put you on the map, so we understand, you know, depending on some skills we're looking at, where you stand. But of course, it's a test. Some students are very good at test taking and some are not so good. Some are working and studying, and then they have the GMAT on top, so they don't have as much time as maybe someone who lives with their parents, and they don't have to worry about certain things. So it depends how much time you have, and depends on your background, it depends on so many things. So it's just an indicator for us. You have to try to reach for the highest possible. But there's no cutoff score. So that's a question I get every day. There is no minimum score. We don't have an algorithm that rule out students because they have a lower GMAT or lower GRE. We look at everything that's in the application package. That will be one item, and we'll look at the rest. So an average score might be balanced out by a great academic records, by maybe a great internship that you've done, maybe you have already some international exposure, etc. So your background will count much more than the GMAT or GRE. So hopefully we answered that question. Someone is asking, with the level of experience, I saw several questions, students with 2, 3, up to 5 years of work experience, and they're wondering if they can still apply for the MIM program. I would say, Vikram, and maybe you can share your experience, but I can tell you on our side, we don't have like a age cap. Usually we say 30 years is the limit, not above 30. But even before, I would say probably the MIM program is not the best fit. We have a full-time MBA. So if you have 2.5, 3 years or more of work experience, I would really advise you to apply to the MBA program, because it's a shorter course, it's 1 year long, and you can just get back pretty much to work in less than a year. With the MIM program, you're in for at least 2 or 3 years. So I advise the MIM program for, I would say, more junior profile, or as you say, freshers.
Yeah, I agree. It's more focused towards the freshers, I feel. So as you mentioned, if you have like quite a significant work experience for a longer duration of time, then MBA would be a better option. But then if you're a fresh graduate, or if you have like maybe 1 or 2 years of experience, then MIM would be really ideal for you.
Thank you. And there is a couple of questions on the transcripts. I think students are worried about how we convert Indian credits to ECTS, and also, do we need the original transcripts? So I can answer partly. So we don't necessarily need the original document, because you send in everything online, so it's a scan of the documents. If you have not finished your bachelor degree, if you're still in the process and you don't have the final transcript, then you send us what you have. You can't apply with grades that you haven't obtained yet. So you will apply with the transcripts that you have. And if you have intermediary provisional transcripts, you can also send them to us, and then we'll update your file when you get the official documents. As far as the credits, I don't think we compare in that way, because A bachelor degree in India, it's usually 4, even 5 years for some of you. So you have more credits than students who have a bachelor in Europe, or usually. Elena, I see you're saying something, sorry.
Yes, and I confirm from all the former years that Campus France also requests some documents, but upload in the platform, so a scanned version for the visa.
Yes, yes, and as far as we're concerned for the admission and the application process, we don't need any paper documents or certified documents. You upload what you have on the online platform, and then the verification of the degree that happens later on in November usually. So after you started the classes, we verify the degree and the transcript. So I'm just looking for can we submit an application and then hand in the GMAT score later after the deadline? No, we need the test score to be able to assess your application. So we really need the GMAT score within the deadline. If it's only a matter of a couple of days, 4 or 5 days, we might be able to squeeze you in the session because we need at least a week to be able to evaluate all the applications from one round. So if you know you took the score before you took the test, sorry, before the deadline, and you know the score is coming up in a few days, you keep us posted and we'll add the score. But if you take the test after the deadline, probably it will be too late because it takes I think between 10 and 15 days to get your results. So it will be too late. Let me see. There is a question about the average GPA. What is the average GPA that we require for graduation? Maybe Vikram, you would know. To be able to graduate for the MIM program, is there a minimum GPA that you need to have?
I don't think there's a minimum GPA requirement. However, there's a requirement for the number of credits that you require in order to graduate, which I think gets fulfilled if you're doing all the courses as assigned to you and if you take 2 specializations. And also the mandatory internship that you have to do in order to graduate includes the credits for that. Like credits is included for that as well. So there's no minimum GPA, but then you do have minimum credits required for graduate.
Thank you. There is another admission question. Are applications submitted in the last round given less consideration? No. No. We have 4 sessions per year, and we don't have a quota per session. We have a number of places available in the program for the intake. So it depends. Sometimes we have smaller sessions, sometimes we have larger sessions. It is changing over the course of time. I would say some years it was typically bigger sessions in the beginning, smaller in the end. And we find that since the beginning of the pandemic, actually students are pushing off their study plan to a bit later. They're a bit more hesitant. So I would say that the first session actually now tends to be a bit smaller and the other have a higher volume of candidates. So it actually becomes even more competitive because yeah, because you will be compared with a bigger volume of students. But it's not an exact science, so I won't say you have to have a strategy of I need to apply now because this is the best session. I think it's more about when is your application ready and when do you feel ready. Students who are not happy with their GMAT score and they feel they can do better, I always say take it again and apply later. I don't say just send it in and you will see, because I feel like you have to, if you want to give it the best shot, then you have to give the best representation of your level. And I think you know what you're worth. So my advice is always to really apply when you're ready, when your application is ready, and when you feel it's a good representation of you. So
I would just like to add that when we are applying in the last round, I think there's a restriction in the campus that we can choose because there's a limit, right?
mhm.
So you don't get to choose all the campuses if you're applying in the last round. But if you're sending in your application in the first round, then you have more options in terms of campus selection, at least for the first semester.
Yeah, that's correct, Vikram. Yeah, the only maybe disadvantage of applying later is because the places fill up on the different campuses. If you were targeting maybe a campus other than Paris in the first semester, there's a possibility that it might already be full, and then you will have maybe your second choice. So that's correct. That's something to take into consideration. There is, let me see. If you want to look at the questions, also please feel free, because I don't I don't
Sure.
want to. Someone is asking about what sets ESCP apart from HEC and ESSEC. That's a very specific question. Do you want to start, Vikram? Maybe Elena and myself
I
can
think
complete.
ESCP has the best management and the best students. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's all the same. To be honest, it's a very healthy competition between all the three universities. I did not realize this before coming to France. When I was applying, I used to think it's quite different. It's very competitive and it's very different. But once I joined here, once I joined ESCP, I noticed that there is a little bit of competition, but it's very healthy competition, and they're quite collaborative, all the three universities, to be honest. And in fact, for some of my specialization lectures, I did get a few professors from HEC, a few students. We were able to collaborate with students from HEC as well. So it's quite a good atmosphere. It's a nice atmosphere here. So I don't think there is anything in particular that sets these three universities apart. Nothing specific that comes up to my mind.
Thank you, Vikram. Yeah, I think it's also each school has a different program and a different identity. Those schools have been around for a long time. ESCP, we've been around for 202 years now. And ESSEC and HEC, they've also been founded a long time ago, so they're well established. But I think it's about the structure of the program, the content, where the campuses are located. You might be interested, in being in Paris. Maybe you consider being in another city in France. Maybe you want to be downtown Paris. Maybe you would like to be outside of Paris. So there's plenty of things to look at. All the programs are very good and have a great reputation. It's really about which one is the best fit for you and which one you feel also the culture of the school is a good fit with you, because I always say it's not just your school for a couple of years, it's your school for the rest of your career and rest of your life. So you might want to choose wisely. And I think when the alumni meet you during the interview, they also wonder, would I want to be working with this student, later? Would I want to hire that person? Do I want to share the same network? So I think it's important to have contacts with students and as much as possible to get to know the school before you send in the application.
I see a question. It asks, how are the work opportunities for Indian students after MIM? I feel I can answer this. To be honest, there's no specific difference between an Indian student and a European student. It all comes down to the skills that you have. If you are able to speak French fluently and you're applying for a job in France and you have all the skills that is required, then you will definitely get a job. There's no doubt about not getting a job. So again, it comes down to your skills, your areas of interest, and your language fluency in the country that you're applying for.
There is a good question actually. Is it compulsory to have some work experience for the MIM program? So yeah, maybe Vikram, you want to answer?
Yes, so I finished my undergraduation in 2020. So I'm a fresh graduate. I did not do any job full time after finishing my education. I started MIM immediately after my bachelor's. So the only work experience that I had was the couple of internships that I did during my undergrad. So do I think it's a good decision? Well, I would say yes, because it doesn't really matter. The internship, if you have done an internship that's quite significant, then I feel that is enough for MIM, because as I mentioned earlier, MIM is more focused towards freshers. So they make sure that, whenever they're addressing the students, they address it in that aspect. So there won't be a moment where you feel that you should have had some sort of experience, or it's not a major drawback. But if you are working at the moment, and if you are like maybe working for 1 or 2 years, then I would say get the experience, because the classes that we have in ESCP are quite collaborative. So when you have an experience, you get to share a bit more with your fellow students. So that, brings more value and adds more value to the class. It makes the class more interesting. So if you are working, then it's fine. Continue your work and maybe work for 1 or 2 years and then join. But if you're a fresh graduate and you're thinking to join, then I would say, yeah, you can go for that. Your work experience is not going to matter that much.
Let's see. Oh,
There is a question about the languages. Some students want to learn German or want to improve the French. There is a language center. So in Paris campus, there are courses. You can take German courses, and also there is the tandem. It's a way to learn language by exchanging conversation with other students. And at campus, in Paris campus or in any other campus, we have like 50% student international abroad, and then the rest from France or from Europe. So you will have many languages in the cafeteria, in the library. You will exchange with the students in different languages. Even the courses are in English.
Yes, thank you, Elena. Actually, it's a requirement. You need to have a C1 level in one language. So usually students will choose English. And then you need to have a B2 level in a second foreign language to graduate. So it's recommended, it's not mandatory. So you will be expected, if you want to validate English as the first language, then the second language, if it's French, you will be required to complete a B2 level by the end of the program. So, yeah, so there is a requirement. So there is another question. Let's see. Can I take up German language classes in Paris? Because
Yeah.
I would like to do M2 in Germany and work there.
Yes, that's possible. Yeah.
Yes, you can study all the languages of all our campuses in any of our campuses, plus some other languages, not everywhere, but for example, we have a Chinese, Arabic, Russian in Paris, and you have other languages. But you can study in Paris German if your plan is to go to Germany afterwards. You can definitely take German classes, yes.
There's a question. Do you pay for an extra year of tuition during the gap year? No, right? You don't have to pay any. Yeah.
No, the tuition fees you have to pay the first 2 academic years, no matter what you do. So if you take a year of studies and then a gap year, you will have to pay the tuition fee for the second year during the gap year. If you take 2 years of studies, you pay the 2 years of studies, and then you can take a gap year afterwards. There is only a registration fee for the gap year, which I think is 930 euros. around that amount of money if it's not exactly the amount, and it's for the whole year. So it's a registration fee, but you don't pay like 3 years of tuition if you spend 3 years at ESCP. No, it's only 2 years.
Do we have to pay the fees for gap semester as well, or is it just for a gap year, the 930?
I'm not sure. I think it's for the gap. I'm not sure. I think it's for the gap year, but I'm guessing if it's a gap semester, yeah, I can check. I can check. I can send the information to the students, but yeah.
Okay.
There is a great question on the work opportunities for students after the MIM program. Do you have feedback, Vikram, to share about what kind of work opportunities students have? It's not specified in Europe or back in India, but maybe from your own experience of talking with alumni.
I would say the work experience, like the work opportunities are quite wide. You have a lot of scope when you are graduating from a good school like ESCP. Um, to be honest, the MIM program has a lot of value inside Europe. So I'm not really sure how valuable this particular course would be if you head back to India after finishing your education. But if you are in Europe and if you plan to continue your career here, at least for a few years, then I would say it'll definitely add a lot of value. So even the alumni network is pretty extensive. So you have alumni working in pretty much every company. Like if you go to LinkedIn, if you go on LinkedIn and type the name of the company and just put ESCP in the bracket, then you get a list of alumni that are working. So I would say because of this extensive alumni network and the brand value of the school, getting a job is not that challenging. It will be easy. But yeah, again, the value of the course is significantly higher inside Europe, but I'm not too sure about its value in India.
Yeah, maybe I can add, Vikram. I met a lot of alumni in India actually, and a lot of them were working in European companies or companies that had the headquarters in Europe. So I know that a lot of them, the experience of having living in Europe first and then having the degree from ESCP, it gave them an advantage when they were applying for jobs at, I don't know, companies like Capgemini, or I remember meeting someone from Rabobank, Dutch Bank. So I think it helps if you know one of the European languages, it can be French or another one. Plus you have the experience of living at least 2 years in Europe in different places. It does give I would say a competitive advantage maybe with students who have the same degree that you have, but they haven't gone to Europe to get their business degree. So that really make you stand out. And I met a lot of entrepreneurs also. So I was amazed that I think India has such a huge potential also, setting up a business, probably more than back in Europe. so yeah. There is a question about, well, I don't know if you want to share, it's a bit more personal, but someone is asking about how did you finance your studies? Was it with a student loan or a scholarship? How did you manage, if you're willing to share?
Yeah, sure. For me, I did not get any scholarship, or I did not take a student loan either. I was fortunate enough that my parents sponsored for my education. So yeah, it was sponsored to be by my parents, so I did not have to go through this.
Thank you. Someone, I see a lot of questions, so I'm trying to see that we don't forget anything. Oh, someone is asking you, Vikram, also about the student clubs. Are you in the student society? And if yes, how does it work now with the pandemic? How do you interact, or how do you?
I'd like to share a few things about this. So there are a lot of clubs, a lot of interesting clubs in ESCP, and the student associations are quite active. So if you have a particular interest or passion in any field, it could be academic related or sports or your hobbies, there is a club for that here. But the clubs are quite extensive in Paris campus. It's not that active in other campuses. I think we have a few clubs in Berlin and London, but it's the highest in Paris. Like Paris is the best campus for clubs. Regarding the sports clubs, because of the pandemic, the sports activities have been put on hold at the moment. So there's no sport activities or sport related stuff going on at the moment, but I hope it gets opened up by the time you all apply and join. Personally, I am a part of the Student Ambassador Program, which is not exactly a club, but it's again a quite extensive and demanding program. And I spend a lot of time organizing and conducting activities and performing stuff for that. So that keeps me busy. So I'm part of the Student Ambassador Club.
Yeah, you can become like Vikram when you get an admission at the beginning of the school year. Every year we will be asking applications from students who want to become ambassadors, and there's a selection process also. So you have to submit a video and explain, why you would be a great ambassador for the school and how do you want to contribute and what's your background. So we want to have, of course, a good representation of what the class is, and I think if you look at the website, it will give you a good vision of what the cohort is. And actually, that's linking me to a question I was asked at the beginning of the session. Someone was asking how many students are enrolled in the MIM program every year. So nowadays it's actually over 1,000. I think last year we went up to 1,200, but it's on all ESCP locations. So not everyone is in the same place at the same time. And of course, because of the campus rotation that is required from you, you won't be meeting the same students all the time, maybe some of them, but you will be meeting new students every semester. And there are great networking opportunities with the class because you won't always be in the same place with the same people. And maybe you can tell us about the experience in class, Vikram. Do you get more like lectures with a big amphitheater with a lot of students, or is it more like smaller sessions where you can discuss, topics? So how is it? What is the breakdown approximately of classes?
Yeah, so during the first semester, when the classes were kind of general and common, it used to be in huge theaters with the professor on the podium. So those classes were kind of general, so there were a lot of students in the class. But then as we progressed, especially during the specializations, the classes are much more compact and the number of students are quite limited because the selection process is quite extensive for the specialization. So I personally liked the second one, like the ones which we had for specialization, because I was able to interact more with the students. I was able to grow my connections. I was able to make new friends. And at the same time, it was easy for us to interact with the professors as well. Like any questions that we had, we could immediately interrupt him in the middle, and the professors were really cool. They wouldn't mind. So they want the students to interact, and they will immediately get back to you. So it's nice. Yeah. It actually brings me to the next question. Someone asked, the program is spaced out among different campuses. Does it hinder the formation of invaluable friendships and relations through the duration of study? I actually relate to this question a lot because it is true, because when there's a lot of traveling going on, it is really, really difficult to make long-term friends because everyone is, busy. Everyone's moving quickly. They're planning where to go to the next semester. But I think it's part of the challenge. You make new friends and you stay with them. But then at the same time, you should remember that you're here for your academics as well. Friendship is just a part of it, but you're mainly here to gain knowledge and to learn new stuff. So Yes, it will be a challenge making new friends if you're continuously shifting between different campuses. But also bear in mind that there'll be a lot of students who will have the same sort of plan like you. There'll be students who would have probably done 2 semesters in Paris and would be wanting to do 2 semesters in Germany. So you will find some people who are following a similar path as yours. And yeah, maybe you would find someone who is with whom you can form a long-term friendship.
Thank you, Vikram. There was a question actually for Elena. Someone is asking about scholarships. So I don't know if they missed the the the, the moment when we mentioned them. Maybe Elena, if you want to remind the students who are still here, what's the next deadline and what specific scholarship is available?
So a specific scholarship next week. It's a Charpak scholarship for master degree for students who have been studying in India. And there is a main document that you will need for the application. It's the cover letter. There is 2 or 3 questions. What's your motivation to come to France? Because this is a scholarship specific for Paris campus. And what's your excellence experience? So all your distinctions, your prizes, your nominations, if you have been involved in associative activities or in any sports or cultural competitions. And the third, what's your goals with this Master in Management program in France and the future relationship between France and your country of origin. The deadline is April 9, so if you have any question, there is a general email address for the Campus France India, so they explain to you other details about the online application. And if you want to share with me some tips, because we have had students in the past, or I can also request recommendations to our 2 students. There are 2 students this year, Charpak students, scholars in Paris campus.
And another question, Elena, someone was asking about the email ID where they need to send the motivation letter for the Charpak. So what's your advice? They need to contact directly Campus France, right? There is a contact on the website.
This slide, you have put this slide. Natalie, you put the address.
I might have. I will be sending the presentation to everyone.
Yes, the web link is very clear because this is a scholarship that have been running since a long time ago. So the Campus France website is very, very clear, step by step, where you need to write and where you need to upload your documents.
Yes.
I think if you just type Charpak on Google, the first link that you get is for Campus France Charpak, and you'll find all the information very clearly. So it's not complicated.
Yes.
I think they have opened a WhatsApp group. Campus France India have opened a WhatsApp group to share tips about the scholarship application.
Yes. Thank you, Elena. And I think we can wrap up with one last question. Anyone who has a question we didn't answer, will send an email, in the next couple of days or by Monday, so you will get your answer. There was a question about the motivation interview. If we can share any tips and suggestions, I think it could be nice to finish with that.
Definitely. So the interview for me was for around 35 to 40 minutes. And it was pretty straightforward. There was no tricky questions or anything. It was very smooth. For me, the panel consisted of a professor from ESCP Paris and a management member. The most of the questions were focused on my CV. It's like whatever I had mentioned on my CV, they asked me questions regarding that. They asked me questions from the internships that I had done. What did I learn from those internships, and why did I find it interesting? I was also asked about the projects that I worked on during my undergraduation. So make sure that you are aware about the projects that you did and you are familiar with the details so that it'll be easy for you to explain. Apart from academics, I was also asked a few questions about my extracurriculars, especially the sports that I play. Why do I play that sports? Why do I find it interesting? And a few questions related to my field of interest. So they asked me which field of interest I have, and it could be anything. You don't have to be, you don't have to talk only about business because it's a business school. You can talk about any interest you have. Personally, I am a big automotive enthusiast, so I told about my passion for automobiles, and they asked me questions regarding that. One of my friend is really passionate about cooking, so he told about cooking, and he was asked a few questions related to cooking. So it's really fun, and you don't have to panic for interview at all. It's really smooth, and it's a very nice process.
Thank you so much, Vikram. So I think we will finish the session because we we didn't respect the limit of 1 hour and a half. So hopefully the students who stay with us got plenty of information. In any case, for those who had to go before or where we didn't specifically answer their question, we'll be in contact. You will be receiving the recording of the session and also the presentation. So maybe I will just finish by saying that if you need anything about the program structure, any question about the school, the application process, I'm the main contact, so you can email me anytime, and I'll be here to help. And then maybe Elena, you want to give some closing words also to the students, since you will be in contact with some of them later.
We will be pleased to welcome you in Paris on site in September. So please come to ECP.
And Vikram?
Yeah, I would just like to thank the management for organizing this webinar because it's quite informative, and I'm pretty sure that the students who attended it would have got all the information and insights that they had on their mind. So thank you for organizing this. And if any of the students have any questions related to the student life or anything related to academics, then you can find me on LinkedIn. It's the same name, Vikram Timiri, on LinkedIn. Or you can also send me a mail on the student ambassador email ID. It's there on the website of ESCP. So I'd be more than happy to help you guys out. So feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, everyone, and we look forward to receiving your application and meeting you hopefully soon in Paris at ESCP. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Merci. Au revoir.
Au revoir.